sure that it was nothing wrong with that. Then he also wanted to sort of support on the table of the finance, which is a change of his approach, but that's what it's about.
Good morning, Senator. Afternoon. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Senate Transportation Committee hearing. Would you all join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Senator Gendron, will you do the honors?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We are now going to open the hearing on House Bill 20. I just need the sheet. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Good afternoon, Representative Nodder. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator, and good afternoon, everyone. This bill is very simple, straightforward. It's to name a bridge in Merrimack after our late speaker, Dick Hinch. He was a very popular gentleman in our town. He did so much for the town of Merrimack, being on a former board of selectmen, just various boards. He got the highest position in the House, and he knew how to bring people together. And this is just something we could do for him. That's it.
It's a nice memory for him. It really is, in his honor. Any questions from anybody? Okay, thank you. The chair will now recognize Bob Scully.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I appear today as a resident of the town of Merrimack, in support of House. Sorry,
You'll
I'm-
learn.
I'm-
You haven't been around here long.
I'm used to 30 years without a red button. Sorry. In support of naming this bridge after former Speaker Hinch. I knew Dick very well. He was a neighbor. Did tremendous things for the town of Merrimack, and I think this would be a great way to honor his name and for the people in the town to remember him. So I just ask you to kindly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak to House Bill 20? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on House Bill 20.
Zach?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we need a motion to vote on the bill. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move consent?
Well,
What?
Madam Chair, do you think somebody in your caucus might want to say a few words about Dick Hinch or not? We'd go on consent, but it might, I don't know what do you.
say something.
Yeah, so
Okay.
let's do that.
All right, we won't put it on consent then, so we'll just put it at 5-0, ought to pass. Okay. We have to,
I just wanted to ask who's going to be taking the bill out.
I'll take it out.
Okay.
So we have to wait until 1:10 to open House Bill 52. So we'll take a brief recess. Okay, it's time, we can start. Okay. Good afternoon again. We will open the hearing on House Bill 52. Could I have the sheet, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Michael Abbott, would you like to approach? Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Michael Abbott, and I represent Cheshire District 6, which is the towns of Chesterfield, Hinsdale, and Westmont. I'm the only one who sponsored this bill, but I think it should have been done a long time ago. This General Stark did not cross from Hinsdale to Vermont. He actually crossed at Fort Number 4 in Charlestown, in New Hampshire, and proceeded on his way to the Battle of Bennington. And he's known as the hero of the Battle of Bennington. And Route 9 that goes from Brattleboro, Vermont to Bennington is called the Molly Stark Trail. And there is on the top of Wolford Mountain a Molly Stark State Park. And the other thing is that Bennington Battle Day is a state holiday in the state of Vermont. All there's public offices and schools are closed on that day. Well, they really haven't started because it's in August of the year. But there is also at the Bennington Monument, which is an obelisk in Bennington, Vermont, there is a statue of General Stark in front of it. And obviously, he's recalled for the state's motto, and live free or die. And if there's, I'm certainly, not, when I sit in your position in public works and highways, I don't like to have testimony read to me. And so I think you can, at your leisure, can read that article from Wikipedia on, there were some interesting things that I didn't know about General Stark that are included in that summary. But if there's any questions that I'm capable of answering, I certainly will.
Senator Ward?
Thank you, Representative Abbott. I know the bridge well, been over it numerous times, so I know what you're talking about. I just saw here in the bill here that any signage, other markers required shall be approved by the Department of Transportation. Have you spoken with the Department of Transportation? So what are their responsibility?
Okay, I spoke to Bill Cass before when he was the assistant commissioner about that, and he didn't think there would be any problem with that. Because what there is now, Senator, is there are two bridges. Yes. The Anna Hunt Marsh Bridge and the Dana, his name, I just couldn't grasp it. He was a newspaperman, worked for Horace Greeley, and he was a native of Hinsdale. Anna Hunt Marsh was a native of Hinsdale, and she gave, which was $5,000 in the early 1800s, to found the Brattleboro Retreat, which is a hospital set up to deal with folks that have mental problems. But this new bridge is, Mr. Lambert can speak to it better than I can, but it's 1,700 feet long, and what it is it removes a safety obstacle with it goes over the railroad tracks where the old bridges landed on the same level as with the railroad. So that if there's a train there, the Rescue Incorporated from Brattleboro, which the town of Hinsdale has a contract with, would be unable to get over there. So it serves a health and safety issue for one thing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Representative, for your testimony. The chair will now recognize Bill Lambert.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Bill Lambert. As of Friday last week, I'm no longer the state traffic engineer. I am now the state highway safety engineer. So my role has changed, but since I follow these bills through the House hearings, I'm bringing them forward, following them through the Senate as well. I'm generally here to answer any questions that might be up there and introduce myself to the advocates and the sponsors in case they need to contact relative to signing. I just want to make it clear because I think the last question seemed to raise some concern as to whether this was an existing bridge. This is the new bridge that's currently under construction. It's not open to traffic at this point in time. The two bridges that Representative Abbott described are the existing bridges, both steel truss bridges that go over Hop Islands across the Connecticut River to Brattleboro. Those are both named, and they will remain following the project as pedestrian bridges so that people can access the river. And the one other thing that I'd note is there is a general Stark highway. To my knowledge, there is no, one of the other things I do with following these bills is check the record to see if there's a conflict with any other names. So I'm not aware of any other John Stark Bridge. The John Stark Highway begins in Goffstown at Route 114. It extends to Bradford and then follows 103 to Route 11 and then Route 11 all the way through Charlestown. But I'm not aware of a John Stark Bridge. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak to House Bill 52? Seeing none, we will close the hearing on House Bill 52.
Exec,
So moved.
move on to pass.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Who would like to take this out? Okay.
And may I, would do consent?
Well,
Well, it's because I think Dick needed to be mentioned, and I don't think John Stark. Someone quote John Stark. Well, I don't think John Stark will care one way or another, or his family. Yeah, well, whatever you want to do. I don't care. But let me note for the record that General John Stark, being Scotch-Irish, said, live free or D. Because D, me, and free were all rhymed at that point in time. So for what it's worth,
such a historian.
live free or D, and it makes sense when you hear it. It's a little rhyme.
That's
But
true.
we're
Well,
now
Senator Ward, since you're taking it out, what would you like to do? I'm going to let you decide. Do you want to speak on the floor to this?
I am one part of the committee, 1/5 of it, whatever you decide.
I say she should speak to it on the floor.
Okay.
Okay.
We're not going to put this
We're
on
good.
consent.
Yeah.
All right. Coming out of executive session, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. We are now closing the executive session hearing, and we are going to open the public hearing on House Bill 111. Oh, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Senator Donovan Fenton, for the record, from District 10. I'm here to introduce House Bill 111 because the representative whose bill this is out sick. And this bill is establishing a committee to study electrical vehicle charging for residential renters. That's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, there is no one signed up to speak, so I will ask, are there any members of the public that would like to speak to House Bill 111? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on House Bill 111. So moved.
So let me. Oh, yes, sorry. So let me just say a couple words in background here on this one. That when, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, when we established our commission on electric vehicle infrastructure, we talked about all kinds of issues. We also, at the same time, passed a companion bill that dealt with things like signage and PUC rate setting and so on and so forth. During that commission, we talked about this issue. We talked about where, municipalities who wanted it, and we talked about the highways and made that plan that's being implemented now. And we also talked about the businesses, and then we talked about apartment buildings. And so, this is a good issue to come back and take a look at this point in time, because it's now becoming more real. And I know other states are taking various approaches to this as well. And I believe Dover, for example, has now passed an ordinance that requires any new housing development in the city to plan for and put in the infrastructure for electric vehicle charging. So I think this is very timely. My only question had been about it was that, when we entered that commission on electric vehicle infrastructure, it was at the time that Representative Smith and I used another one of my bills to set up the Transportation Council. And we did officially a handoff in there that they would take on the area of electric vehicle charging infrastructure and continue with any business that had been recommended by that previous commission. So I just assumed, it's funny because I think there's some things that could be in the Transportation Council, and now on this and some other matters, we're setting up study committees, and that's just fine. I'm just, wanting to have that on the record, because I think it's going to be important for this group to consult with Jim Jalbert and the Transportation Council. So with that, Madam Chair, I would like to have a committee amendment. I'd like to move ought to pass, but I have a committee amendment too. So I'll move ought to pass.
I'll second it.
My committee amendments, I will move that we, on line 7, change 3 to 1. Are we unanimous on that?
I think so.
All right, so I'll move that as a committee amendment. If somebody wants to second.
I'll second it.
So we need to vote on the committee amendment and then vote on it to pass.
So I'd like to take a vote on the committee amendment.
Aye,
Okay, aye.
and I'll move on to pass as amended.
Could I have a second?
Second?
I'd like to have us vote now on ought to pass with amendment.
Aye.
Aye. We're all in favor, so 5-0.
I'll move consent.
Second. All in favor for consent?
Aye.
Aye.
If you'd like me to take it out, I will.
We'll have Senator Waters take that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I need a motion to come out of executive.
Make that motion.
Okay, second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now out of executive session, and we cannot go into our next hearing until 1:30, so we will take a short recess till then.
like a hot knife through butter. We are moving along.
I know, and
That's the
you know,
transportation
I
committee.
haven't done this part that much, but I feel like it's going pretty smooth.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good bill. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have not spaced them so We will now open the hearing on House Bill 153, and the chair will recognize Representative Faulkner. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'm Barry Faulkner, Cheshire 10. I represent Swansea and Richmond. Bill is about pedestrian crossing signals. We don't have any of those in Swansea and Richmond, but it's basically a technical bill that addresses two problems with the existing law. One is there's an obsolete reference to the words walk and don't walk. Those haven't been allowed since 2003 or for new installations. So it corrects that to refer to the raised hand and walking figure symbols instead. So the other problem is the conflict between statutes that a pedestrian crossing that's perfectly legal at every other signalized intersection in the state is prohibited at a signal one that has the pedestrian signals. In other words, somebody crossing in the same direction as the straight ahead green is allowed at every other intersection, and people do cross that way even with the pedestrian signals. Right now, the requirement is that they push the button, wait for the pedestrian cycle to come around, and then cross then. Even though it may be safe and legal, as legal anyplace else, to cross before then. And it's a widely ignored rule. I don't think most people are aware of it. People don't like to push the button because it gets the drivers mad that they have to wait an extra cycle for the pedestrian cycle. And and it's safer to cross when you can see that there's no traffic coming than to wait for the traffic to pile up and then and go, right? So it eliminates that rule, reduces the violation. It says that you can cross if it's legal, otherwise legal to do so, as long as you don't interfere with traffic. So right now, pedestrians have the right of way in a crosswalk, except at signalized intersections where they have the right of way against turning traffic, but not against the traffic with the straight green. So they would basically restore that same rule to every intersection. People can still push the button if they feel safer doing so. It just eliminates the penalty that would be imposed upon pedestrians. And the conflict is that if pedestrians is in the crosswalk, the law still states that turning traffic has to yield to the pedestrians, but now you have two people, each of them are at fault if there's a conflict. So this resolves that conflict in the favor of the pedestrians. It's a minor change. I aspire to do that by noticing that the state of California, which used to be the worst in terms of favoring automobiles over pedestrians, they recently repealed all of their jaywalking laws, and the language in this one is consistent with what California now has for pedestrians crossing at signals. So that's that. We House Transportation Committee voted this out, unanimous recommendation, and it passed in the House on the consent calendar. So I hope you'll see fit to do a favorable recommendation as well.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. No? Okay. The chair will now recognize Bill Lambert. Good afternoon again.
Back again. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Bill Lambert. I am the Department of Transportation Highway Safety Administrator. Excuse me. Again, I'm here testifying not in favor or opposed. I think that's up to you folks. I work with the sponsor in the House Transportation Committee to amend the bill so that it's consistent with the Uniform Vehicle Code. So the Uniform Vehicle Code is a document that provides model laws and ordinances for motor vehicle laws in every state so that people don't have to learn them as they drive from state to state. So the language that's in the bill, the amended bill in front of you now, is consistent with that with the Uniform Vehicle Code, other than the content change if crossing interferes with vehicular traffic. That's essentially the only thing that's unique to the bill. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to House Bill 153? Seeing none, we will close the hearing on House Bill 153.
Move to exec.
So moved.
Second?
Make sure everyone's mics are on, please. Thank you.
I'd like a motion.
Second.
All those in favor of ought to pass?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none?
Consent.
Second.
All those in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. I'd like to see who it's going to take it out.
I can take it out.
Okay, thank you, Senator Fenton. I need
Now,
a,
I understand in California that the walk signals don't say walk and don't walk. They say keep on trucking and whoa, dude.
yeah, we're not
Is that
changing
true?
that. No.
Is that true? I think so.
Could I have a motion to come out of executive
So
council,
moved.
please?
Second?
Thank you. We are now closing the hearing on the executive session. And we have 4 minutes before we can open the next hearing. Thank you. We're so organized.
Well, he's the one who's organized. We just gotta fly him away, right?
But I mean, check, right?
That's right, that's right.
Oh, yes, you may. Thank you. Shoot, I had a meeting that was at 2 and I said, oh, I better Good afternoon, everyone. It is time to open the hearing now on House Bill 163 FN. And the prime sponsor is Representative Sellers. If you would like to approach, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Senators.
Good afternoon.
My first time in front of the Senate. So,
Well, welcome.
thank you. Any case, I'm Representative Sellers. I'm represent Grafton 18, which actually includes 10 towns in southern Grafton. I was the one that got the flatorial. In representing them and also from other people I was talking to, I was asked to sponsor this bill here for the veterans decal plates. And it's pretty straightforward. There was a Space Force was never included, and therefore we've included that. Medal of Valors, we've included the Coast Guard Cross as well. And on the other part is the, well, just under D, Distinguished Medals, Distinguished Service Medals. That whole group of medals have been added. Talking, when we're going through the committee in the House, I realized that it says like the financial cost is like $10,000 a year or something like that. And it's what it really sounds like. It's going to be like $10,000 over maybe 5 years or so, or even longer, because they don't order the decals unless somebody actually orders a plate. So these may not get ordered as much as others at that point. So therefore, the decals won't be ordered until someone orders it at that point. So. And that's really about it that I have to say on this. I know there's a couple other speakers that will have something to say.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Question.
Senator Gendro?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for taking my question. Where will the decals go? I'm assuming it's a regular license plate. Where will the decals go on the plate? Or am I not seeing it?
No, I'm not sure if one of the other speakers actually has a picture of that, but
Okay.
I mean, my wife has a decal plate for like EMTs, and it's like when I look at the plate, it's to the left of it. You know, it's just a decal.
Okay, so it'll be, follow up?
Yes.
It'd be printed on then. It's part of the plate.
That's a good question. I think it's a decal, you know, so.
I may
Sticker.
ask some-
As in a
would you
stick.
believe- So isn't it fair to say that when we established the decal plate program, they designed a plate that could accept a decal? And it has a space on it, and then each time we pass one of these, then a decal is made that will go on that existing space on a decal plate.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Would you
Okay.
believe?
Thank you.
Excuse me.
I think we're good, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
The chair will now recognize Eric. Okay.
Thank you.
No. Thank you.
This helps.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Eric Power. I'm from the town of Brookline in southern New Hampshire. I also served in the Air Force as a colonel for 30 years, from 1988 to 2018 in the Air National Guard and the Air Force Reserve. So let me explain a little bit about the decal program. Had a couple questions about it. So New Hampshire currently offers a multi-use veterans decal plate to veterans for selected high precedence military decorations or one of the branches of service. And you heard that we don't support the Space Force yet, but this would correct that. So these were first offered in 2017. So it's a relatively new program. So that's why this is needing some updates for some of these other medals. So the application process is that a veteran who wants this decal submits an application and a $10 decal fee to New Hampshire Division of Veteran Services. It's their job to go into the military records to make sure that if they say they were in the Space Force, they were, Did they earn a Bronze Star? Did they earn a Legion of Merit? They verify that, so you make sure that the person actually earned it. And then after they verify that, then they get the decals are actually sent to the veteran, and they put it on the plate. And if you look at the bottom of the first page, you can see here's an example for the Marine Corps. It's a veteran plate, so it's not quite the same as the other decal plates, but it says veterans because these are all veterans here. And you can put which service you were in or one of the medals that's on the list. The list is in RSA 261C:4. It doesn't list the Space Force, and it is also missing several military decorations for valor, distinguished service, and heroism. So this bill corrects that by adding these missing medals. In some research that was done, New Hampshire is about average right now in recognizing these medals. We're in about the middle of the pack. There's some that are less. There's many that are more. I think New Hampshire wants to recognize its veterans, so I think it makes sense to honor them with and let them select if they want one of these decals for their service. The House Transportation Committee recommended this bill OTP on a 20-0 vote. So on the second page, I show the ribbons, and it's the top highest 21 order of precedence. So in the military, there's an order of precedence. It starts at the Medal of Honor and goes down. In this case, it goes down to the Purple Heart. So if you look at the stars on the left, in blue is what the RSA currently lists. Those are the ones that are permitted. So you can see, and then the ones that are being added by House Bill 163 are in red. So you can see there's a number of them in the middle that have been skipped, and that's what this bill is trying to correct. And as mentioned before, there's a Medal for Valor for Coast Guard Cross that's equivalent of the other services. It should be obviously added, I think. There's also the Distinguished Service Medals that are given to military members that have served for decades in a very distinguished manner, typically 20 to 30 years, to earn some of these medals. Some of them are given to high-ranking enlisted personnel, as well as, typically lieutenant colonels, colonels, and generals. So those service members would earn these as part of their service, and so this would add them to the list. It also adds a missing category, Medal for Heroism. It seems like that makes sense since most of the medals for heroism are above the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart, which are already on the list. So it's sort of a matter of fairness that why should a medal that's higher be excluded? Then in the Purple Heart is obviously people know what that is, get wounded or killed in combat. And a Bronze Star is given for valor in combat. Sometimes a medal like the Legion of Merit is given for valor. But if it's left off the list, then a person who got the higher award would not necessarily get to be able to have the decal if we leave it off the list. So some of these are relatively rare, so they're not going to be common. So it's not going to be a big burden. But if someone does have that service and they do want this, I think it makes sense to have it on the list for everybody to be eligible for it if they've earned these high-level medals. On the third page, sort of a histogram just showing you all the states, and of these 20 medals, how many are offered by each state. And you can see we're kind of in the middle. There's a number of states that offer more of them, and there's other states that actually offer medal plates below the Purple Heart. I'm not proposing that in this bill, but it's something that could be considered in the future. But to at least offer the top 21 makes sense. In the bottom are the 6 current military services. 5 of them are recognized. The Space Force is the one in the lower right that should be added as part of this bill. Just as a note, since the Space Force is just over 3 years old, it's the Space Force license plate's only been put into law in 5 states, so Hampshire would be six to do that, which would be great if we can do that. So, our state through this decal program should offer recognition to all our past, and current service members serving in any military branch and earning any of these highest precedence military decorations for valor, distinguished service, or heroism. People serve in different ways. Not everybody has the same opportunity, but if people spend decades, they should be eligible. If people risk their life either in war or in peace, they should be recognized with this. And so I think it's a great program to honor our veterans in New Hampshire. So I'd recommend OTP, just like it came out of the House Committee. And I'd be willing to take any questions. The last page is just the details by each state if you're curious about which state offer which medals, just for reference.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for taking my question. One thing, first of all, thank you for serving. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. The other question I have, I mean, I know a lot of veterans that are extremely humble, and I wonder who would be the ones ordering these, like a spouse, a child, or saying, "Hey, Dad, you know, you served for 40 years in the Marines, you deserve this." You know, I would find that they would maybe or maybe not do this as a, you see what I'm saying? As far as that humble piece.
I agree. I agree with the people, the service members that earn these awards would be humble, but I think there's some that would like it, and it's also a conversation piece. They see that Silver Star, or they see that Legion of Merit. Hey, can you tell me about that? They might also be encouraged by their family members to get it, and it should be up to each veteran whether they want to do it. Some might just be happy getting the Air Force or the Marine Corps. It seems to be a popular one. People are very happy about being in their service. So any veteran can get them and if they were in multiple services, they can pick which one they want. So I think it's just offering that opportunity to them. And then when the program gets more known and people start seeing them more around the state, that'll raise the awareness of veterans and the decorations that they offer. So I think it makes sense to have, to update the list so that the top 21, if somebody gets them, and they're not very easy to get and they're not common. Just for full disclosure, I have earned the Legion of Merit. So I would actually earn 2 Legion of Merits. I didn't want to say that, but you brought up the question. But I would probably go get one of these plates just for that reason, because it's I'm proud of it, and it's nice. And I might go get another one for the Air Force. So
Congratulations.
so, but anyway, hope you find ought to pass on this. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. The chair will recognize Warren Perry.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, I'm Warren Perry. I'm the Deputy Adjutant General for New Hampshire's Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services. Our Division of Veteran Services administers the decal program for the state. I'd like to say on the outset that the department takes no position on the bill, whether support or oppose the bill. We're just here to provide some context and potentially a recommendation. First, I'd like to say the cost is not a factor here. So I know the prime sponsor mentioned less than $10,000 a year. Cost is not a factor here. We're talking hundreds of dollars over years, not thousands. So cost would not be a factor with regard to this. With regard to the Purple Heart, I think we have a separate plate for the Purple Heart. It's not part of the decal program. Second, I'm not sure that the Legion of Merit is awarded for valor, as you heard in previous testimony. I believe it's a service medal only. It may be, but Legion of Merit's a different category of medals than other service medals, so I may be incorrect on that, but I don't believe it's awarded for valor. When we looked at the bill, we believe that we would ask you to consider an amendment to delete lines 21 through 29 at the page of the bill that specifically talks to the distinguished service medals in the middle. The reason is the medals on those lists from 21 to 29 there are generally offered to officers or senior non-commissioned officers of significant rank. So the demand for those decals will be really low, like relatively low. They're generally not awarded to members of the armed forces below the rank of colonel or captain, or to the senior enlisted ranks, or chief, master chief petty officer, or sergeant major, or chief master sergeant, depending on whether or not you're in the Navy, the Army, or Marines, or the Air Force. The rest of the bill is absolutely magnificent. So adding the medals for valor and heroism that are in there and recognizing the Space Force, we absolutely endorse that. So adding the Coast Guard Cross, the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Army Soldier Medal, the Navy or Marine Corps Medal, the Airman's Medal, and the Coast Guard Medal, absolutely. So generally, the Soldier's Medal or Navy Marine Corps Medal, or Airman's Medal, or Coast Guard Medal are awarded to somebody who risked their lives to save somebody's life in peacetime. You know, we have a trooper, Seth Garr, in our state police who's awarded the Soldier's Medal for dragging people out of the Twin Towers on 9/11. It's that kind of medal. So we absolutely endorse those pieces. As far as the Distinguished Service Medals, they're generally awarded by the Secretary of Defense for people who attain the rank of 3 or 4 stars, whether they're admirals or generals, as does the Homeland Security Distinguished Service Medal, Distinguished Service Medal for the Army, Navy Distinguished Service Medal, Air Force Distinguished Service Medal, and the Coast Guard Distinguished Service Medal. The Defense Superior Service Medal is the United States Department of Defense's second highest non-combat related award, and again, based on joint service, so service to both multiple service. So you're a general officer or an admiral, and you're serving in places that have jurisdiction over more than one service. That's what a joint service piece is. The Legion of Merit is awarded to service members, friendly or foreign nations, distinguish themselves by exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding services or achievements. Again, a non-combat award really for service over time, which shouldn't be looked down on, but really not something that the department thinks should be recognized on the license plate. I would tell you that since 2019, when we instituted the program for decals, we've issued in the following numbers service decal sets. So to the Army, 225 sets, to the Navy, 122, to the Air Force, 152, to the Marines, again, as you heard earlier, most popular, 281, and 61 to the Coast Guard. So that's since 2019. In terms of the medals that are currently approved for issuance, we've issued 0 Medal of Honor sets, 0 Distinguished Service Cross sets, 0 Navy Cross sets, 0 Air Force Cross sets, 3 sets for the Silver Star, 17 sets for the Bronze Star, and we also have a Gold Star family program, and we've issued 17 sets. Many of the veterans in Gold Star families order multiple sets, so the fact that we've issued 17 Bronze Star sets may be for multiple cars. So there may only be 12, but they have multiple cars. So when we wholeheartedly endorse the categories for the Medal of Heroism, including the Distinguished Flying Cross and those medals I mentioned earlier, and adding the Coast Guard Cross and the Space Force. But we would ask you just, and we support the bill. We don't oppose it, but we'd ask you to consider amending the removal of those Distinguished Service Medals. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Of course.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony. So, could you just explain a little further on the deletion proposal? Because is there any harm done to keep these in here?
So I think no, Senator. There's no harm done if we keep them in there at all. But again, it gets to my way of thinking, right? I also served in our armed forces for almost 30 years. I also earned many of the medals that are on the list and some that aren't on the list. But to me, a servant leader would not give recognition to the generals. It would give recognitions to the sergeants and the privates and the lieutenants. And so to my way of thinking, that's where my head is. Is there any harm done by this? None. And if you didn't make the amendment, the department wouldn't oppose it. We would still endorse the bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
Senator Fenton.
Thank you for taking my question. Just out of curiosity for me, are there any Space Force veterans yet?
The short answer to your question is I don't know of any, but there are certainly people serving in the Space Force. And in fact, the New Boston Tracking Station is now a Space Force installation. So we have members of the Space Force that are stationed right here in New Hampshire. And I'm sure that some of them made the transition close to the end of their service. So they served in the Air Force, transitioned to the Space Force, and then got out and would be counted as a Space Force veteran. So I don't think there's a lot of them, particularly here in New Hampshire, but sure, there are some.
And follow up?
Of course.
Just add one point of clarification. So no civilian can get any of these awards, correct?
Well, I'm a civilian and I could get one, but
Well,
I'm
you're a
a
veteran.
veteran. I'm a veteran, yes. So you would have to have been awarded by parts of the Department of Defense, or in the case of the Coast Guard, Homeland Security, you would have had to been in service to be awarded these awards.
Yes, Senator Ward.
Thank you for taking my question. Did you testify to this bill in the House?
I gave, yes, I did.
Did you make the same recommendations?
I made the same recommend. I gave almost identical testimony
Okay.
except for to clarify parts of the record that I heard here today.
Okay, so we still have this original bill.
You do have the original
Okay,
bill.
thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? All
Thank
right,
you.
seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak to House Bill 163? Please come forward, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I'm going to represent myself, John Sellers. I actually am a veteran. I was being a little more humble. When it came to the House side of this, as far as the bill, I thought about changing it and amending it at that point, but I said, it's just so seldom that it might happen, and maybe there's going to be that one general that wants to be recognized. So I left it as it was. All right. But anyways, and I don't think what do I want to say? I don't want to say apply, but I don't think I can actually apply for any of these except that I was in the Air Force. So, anyways, thanks.
Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions or comments? No. Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. I will ask one more time. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak to House Bill 163? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on House Bill 163. Thank you. So moved.
Second?
Okay. Yes. Yes, we were just getting ready to do that. Okay. I'd like to take a vote now to go into executive session. Aye. None opposed. We will now enter executive session to discuss House Bill 163.
Would a veteran like to move off the pass? Do we have one? No, we don't.
No veterans here.
Oh, Madam Chair, why don't you move off the pass?
Ought to pass.
Second.
Aye.
Well, let's all take a vote now.
Aye.
Okay, aye. All right,
Move consent.
second. Who would like to take this out?
I can take it out.
Okay, Senator Gendro will take it out.
Did we vote on consent?
No.
Are we doing consent for this bill?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, did we
Okay.
do the vote for consent?
all of her consent.
Aye.
I thought we did, but okay. I thought we did too. Okay. Okay, you're gonna take it out. And any other questions or comments? Could I have a motion to come out of executive
So
session?
moved. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? We are now out of executive session. We are now closing the hearing. Thank you.
Okay. You would have made your 2 o'clock.
I know, now thanks. I have to wait an hour now.